agenda.
Madam President, make a motion to the agenda as presented with the additional certified classified personal actions for consideration, item E-3. Remove item E-4-C, update remote learning assurances. Third item is F1 COVID-19 update, class plan changes.
There is a motion to approve the agenda with amendments. Is there a second? I'll second. Second by Janine, and Alex is the one who made the motion. Is there any discussion? Stephanie, could you do the roll call?
Laura?
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan?
Aye.
Dana? Aye. Janine? Aye. Mark?
Aye.
Jennifer? Jennifer?
Jennifer, we can't hear you.
You want to give a thumbs up?
There we go. We're doing a roll call vote on approving the consent agenda with amendment.
Alex?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. We do have a couple of public comments. Just as a reminder, you'll each have 5 minutes for your comments. Okay. So, Jeanette Turpin, if you'd like to come up to the podium.
All right. Well, thanks for letting me come and talk. And I'm super happy to see you back, Dr. Carlin. So thankful and glad and just relieved that you're okay and back with us and everything. My name is Jeanette Turpin. I'm from the Garden City High School. I teach family and consumer sciences. That's my position. I also teach dual credit college psychology, the early childhood career pathway, and the the teaching career pathway. So I have a lot of different positions that I do. I also work in the community with a nonprofit called Finney County Child Care and Early Learning Network, which is working on helping with the child care issues in Garden City. And I also have 2 small children. One of them is 10 and goes to Charles Stone, and one of them is 6 and goes to Georgia Matthews. So that's kind of orienting you to my place in the world. I wanted to talk about the possibility of creating the level 3.5 and then moving to that level. And as I understand it, we would move to that level like by default if we vote on that level existing today. And what I wanted to say is, with Dr. Carlin's email, it looks like the school is doing good. The school district is doing good. I just had a secretary talk to me today and said that she was getting less sick calls than she has been, which is awesome. So we looks like moving in a good direction for keeping our students safe. And unfortunately, we don't know the numbers. The teachers anyway don't have access to the numbers for how the school's been doing. The last 2 emails that have come out haven't had the raw numbers of how many positive cases and stuff like that we've had. Like we got with the first couple of weeks, we got those numbers, and we haven't had those recently. And also, it appears as though the way that the classroom levels have been getting changed or getting evaluated, the classroom color levels has changed. Because before, if I, for example, had somebody who I knew tested positive in my classroom, I would be able to see that, and I'd be able to see it in the rest of the school. And so with teachers knowing that, there's been some stuff where classroom levels haven't changed, where they did in a similar circumstance before, and it's just very unclear as to what's happening, what's getting reported, and what exactly did change. I know that there's some flexibility in how we report that, and they're doing it in concert with the health department. And so We just aren't able to keep track of our own existence in our own school as well as we have been. But we'll take people's words for it that we're doing better. However, the community is not doing great right now. From the beginning of school until now, our average cases per day in Finney County went from 4 cases a day, positive tests, to 21. So now we have 21 average new cases a day. And the amount of active cases went up from 77 people actively experiencing COVID or within that 10 to 14 day isolation period to 340, and that's not including today's. I haven't looked at the new numbers yet. So it's a huge amount of people that are actively sick in the community, and we're not an island, right? We're really not an island, you know, especially as a school district, but even as an individual school. What we do affects the community, what the community does and experiences affects us. We are part of the community. So that's not going great. So one of the questions is, if we're doing better at the school, and we seem to be doing better than the community as a whole, why are we considering going less restrictive? Right? It doesn't make sense to move to a more restrictive or a less restrictive environment when what we're doing seems to be working, which is, I understand why we're considering moving to 3, but including the masks, and I think that's wonderful. I think that was a very good thought process to have, that we should have masks be mandatory, because all things being equal, if masks are not mandatory, they're super uncomfortable, they're super hard to work with, they're super hard to talk with. My glasses are fogging up as I speak. We don't want to be wearing masks, and so a mask mandate is the thing that's going to make us do the thing that's going to keep us the most safe. So I am so thankful that that is being included in this conversation for level 3.5. But why are we moving to a less restricted level? And I looked and compared today all of the different levels that we have with the most recent document that we have, which appeared to be the one that was approved on September 24th. That's the only one I could find. I believe there's been some revisions to it since then, but I couldn't find those. And the main changes seem to be, 1, the amount of people attending like sporting events and other activities like that. We would be allowing a lot more than what we're allowing now. And the other one is playground equipment for early childhood, or for early childhood elementary.
Sorry, your 5 minutes is up.
We need like a 1-minute signal or something like that.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have one last like two-second thing to say. I really think that it's important that elementary school gets the chance to reconsider what their levels say, because playing with equipment, and since airborne is what's important, having them take off their masks and only play with each other is really dangerous, whereas having them space out with equipment and toys is appropriate. So there's some things that are not going to make sense, but I wish we could do it by case and by school, not by the whole district moving to level 3. So that's it. Yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And I have to admit, part of the reason that I was kind of freaking out is because I probably have an inappropriate chime. So.
Oh, that's totally fine. Thank you for letting me say my last little bit. Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay, Angie Tolbert, do you want a 1-minute signal?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can speed it up or something if I need to. Okay. Okay, yeah, my name is Angie Tolbert, and I previously addressed you guys at the school board meeting when you guys were having them back in high school. Just something short and sweet. But again, my husband and I have 5 kids in the school district right now. 2 already out of the house. We have a junior, a freshman, a 7th grader, a 5th grader, and 3rd grader. Right now, they are all learning remote from home. And that is simply because I am not supportive of the mask mandates and all the restrictions that are going on in school. So we chose to teach them from home. And I'm glad that we had that option. That's okay. Let me get on script. We are remote learning, and to start off, I would like to say that it has been rough. Trying to keep them focused and work at home is challenging. I'm working from home in the meantime. I do have the privilege of working from home, and honestly, I haven't made it to the office maybe 2 days since school started. So I feel honored to be able to work from home, but nonetheless, it makes things even more challenging. So some grades, well, I wrote this a couple weeks ago and you guys weren't taking any comments, so I'm going to kind of have to go in between the lines here. So I had my 2 high schoolers finally got up and going after 4 weeks My junior had 3 classes for the whole first 4 weeks of school. He was not complaining, but he was a little concerned to see what was gonna happen when he got all his classes up and going. My freshman, she had most of her classes, although I think it was about 3.5 weeks before she had all of hers as well. So things were pretty rough at the beginning, trying to get remote learning going, trying to get things going. Even the littler kids, I love our teachers, but it's just been a learning process, okay, put it that way. So let me get back here. My junior finally has all of his classes now after having 3 for the first month of school. My other, of course, my freshman has hers as well, and they are going good. I'm gonna say Ingenuity is okay. I wish there was more instruction with it. I wish there was more available teacher contact, like immediate teacher contact, because sometimes when they have one teacher they're communicating with at the high school, and they have a problem in algebra, their teacher is not an algebra teacher, okay? So she's like, well, hold on, let me connect the dots. So I wish that there would have been more going into Ingenuity and going into the remote learning. I think there should have been a little bit more planning there with who is contacting who. Like if the kids have an issue, who they go to. My daughter, her teacher is a coach. Nothing against that, we love coaches, but he's not a math teacher. So she had a problem with her honors math class, and he just had to start trying to connect dots. So it's been kind of difficult, and they've had to learn a lot with it, okay? So it's not going totally smooth. I know a lot of it wasn't the counselor's fault. I know they were working on it, but as hard as it was just to get the remote kids going, I can't imagine how hard it's gonna be to get all 2,200 kids going if you do decide to go remote in the district. I see it as major chaos, personally. This district has some amazing teachers, many of whom I request year after year for each of my kids because I know their #1 concern is my children's education. The same cannot be said really about my confidence in the school board right now. Other issues have taken precedence over my children's quality of education and have clouded, I believe, judgment. I didn't vote for school board members to sit there in the chairs and govern my children's health, or to tell me that my children have to wear a mask in order to sit in a classroom to receive their constitutional right of an education. Have their temperatures checked, usually execution style, have hand sanitizer slathered all over their hands, which can be toxic multiple times a day. Education that my tax dollars goes to support should be the best, and it should also be your priority as well. It should not be governed, if you will, by the Finney County Health Department. My children's education is not their job, and it is not any of their business, to be honest with you. For them to define when they go to school, who goes to school, and why they go to school, or how long they go to school. That is not the health department's job. That is your job. My kids, along with every other kid here in the district, has a right to be sitting in a classroom with a teacher, any one of the wonderful teachers that I've made reference to. We have lost sight of our priorities, and what about the emotional and psychological well-being of our kids? We're relational beings. We're created that way. Every one of my kids has expressed missing or being around classmates, especially my youngest. I have 5 at home, so they can depend on each other. I have a couple in sports. I put my youngest one in gymnastics, so she'd get more playtime together with other girls.
And that's who, I'm sorry, I thought you saw my one.
I saw your,
Okay.
yeah, so I have a lot more to say, but I think you kind of get the gist of it. That I'm very disappointed in what we're doing and what we're forcing our kids to be. I don't believe there was any data to support mask wearing. We don't know long-term effects of mask wearing. We don't know long-term effects of temperature checking their pineal gland. We don't know long-term effects of washing them down all the time with toxic hand sanitizer. Everything else we've done for our kids in this district has been based on data, has been based on research, except for this. Our kids were guinea pigs. They're just put out there. We don't know what this is gonna do long-term, but wear the mask. You know, is it affecting your natural body function to exhale? Yes, it is, but we don't know the long-term effects and we're gonna do it anyway. So I just feel like some of the decisions we've made have been based on fear, not based on facts or data. And our kids deserve so much better than that. We've always been confident in the school here. I was homeschooled, so I could have easily decided to do that, but I've wanted my kids to be a part of the public school system. But now we're doubting that. I could easily just pull them out and homeschool. It'd be way easier right now than trying to work with all the remote learning and everything that comes with it. Remote teachers are doing amazing. I have some great ones. Okay, it's nothing on the teachers. It's just that we're trying to force something to work that is not meant to work. And our kids have not been trained to learn remote like this. We've trained them to learn in a classroom setting. And so trying to do what we're doing now is just really something unnatural. And I feel like anybody doing remote is just not getting their full education.
Thank you,
So-
Mrs. Tolbert.
Thank you.
Stephanie, do we have any correspondence? Yes.
We received this letter from Drs. Rachel Spotty and Gretchen Lynn Dunford. Dear Dr. Carlin and USD-457 school board members, first of all, we would like to thank all of you for the hard work and hours of effort and planning that you have put into creating a safe learning environment for students and staff in the Garden City Public School System amidst the unprecedented challenge that this COVID-19 pandemic has presented you with. We would also like to acknowledge that this pandemic has required a significant amount of extra work from the educators and staff of USD 457 and express our appreciation for the work they do as well. We are writing today to strongly encourage you to continue a mask mandate for all USD 457 students and staff at this time. At this point, it is well known that mask wearing does result in a significant decrease in spread of COVID-19. It is also known that children can contract COVID-19 and also can spread COVID-19, often asymptomatically, to other individuals. There is no medical evidence that the use of face masks as a whole is harmful or unsafe. Because students in this school district are directly connected to so many other individuals in the community through their families and friends, the decisions you make here in these meetings during this pandemic will affect the health in the community as a whole. In the last 2 weeks, there have been occasions in which St. Catherine Hospital was on diversion for hospital and ICU admissions because there were so many COVID-19 patients already admitted to the hospital. To be clear, this means that patients who presented to St. Catherine Hospital needing admission to the hospital for care and who could normally be cared for here locally had to be transferred to another location because there were not enough beds available for them to be admitted in Garden City. We give you the example of the hospital to show that there continues to be significant disease burden from COVID-19 on this community. We believe that continuing a school-wide mask mandate at this time improves the chances of students remaining in schools for in-person learning, as it not only helps to slow spread to other students and their families, but also to reduce risk of spread of COVID-19 to teachers and staff. In addition, we believe that it will help to slow spread of COVID-19 in our community as a whole. Again, we strongly urge you to continue the school-wide mask mandate in the USD 457 school system. Attached are references from peer-reviewed publications for your record and review. We encourage everyone to read these to help inform any further decisions regarding mitigation strategies for COVID-19 in the school district. Thank you for all the work that you do for the children and families in USD 457 school district.
I'm sorry, who was that from again?
Dr. Spotty, S-B-A-T-Y, and Dr. Dunford.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can we take like a 5-minute break? That was during the letters, so.
But you have to try and cram it in all into
Yeah.
a short amount of time.
Oh gosh, we've had so many experiences that it's just, I'm just.
And just, you know, it was the Imperial Death March, so that was my time.
Oh, that would have been all right.
Okay.
They go outside, they just don't get to play in the playground. That I do. It's not required, but it's recommended and they do. They do it. They said that there's kids that like choose to do it, so it's not required. But they do it. Yeah, just leave it. Yeah. I know. Yeah, they come, yeah.
It's better shooting a sock off.
Yeah, I bet traveling, being a traveling teacher is terrible. Not feeling like you have a place.
Are we ready?
Whenever you're ready, it looks like, I think Alex is there, yeah, Alex and Jennifer are both there.
Okay, so we're ready for the Georgia Matthews building presentation. Thank you for letting me take that break. Again, my apologies. So, sorry.
Hey, good evening, board. I'm Michelle Kent. I am the principal at Georgia Matthews. This is my second year in the leadership role, and I have to say thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be leader of an already amazing. I have here with me tonight Becky Alexander. She's our kindergarten teacher and a member of our BLT team, our building leadership team, as well as Caitlin Slavic, who is also a member of our building leadership team. And I see that Chastity Rubacabla is here, who is the truancy officer based out of our building. Let me share my screen. So just a little history about our school. So our school was built and completed in 1958. We quickly grew and 6 more rooms were added in the 1960s. In 1963, we were added the 2 rooms, which are the annex, the building behind our school building, and it is now our remote learning studio. We celebrated Georgia Matthews' 100th birthday in 1991. In 2006, we added some more parking, and then in the spring of 2019, our school celebrates the 60th anniversary of our namesake. In our school, on our site, we have 33 staff members and 104 students that we're serving on a daily basis. And then this year, with the new addition of remote learning, we have 14 staff members, mostly homed at Georgia Matthews. We have 5 teachers that are homed at Florence Wilson, and we are currently serving 191 remote learning studios. So I asked Ms. Barbara what you guys want to hear about our school, and she said, well, what do you want to know about Georgia Matthews? And I took it to my experts, which are my stakeholders, of what they want you to know about Georgia Matthews. So let them share with you.
Did I touch that? I thought I did that.
Michelle, can you turn the volume up on your computer so we can hear the comment?
Were you able to hear that okay?
No. Michelle, if you'll send me the video, I'll make sure it gets emailed out to the board members so they can.
Perfect, thank you, Dr. Collin, I apologize for that. It worked well earlier today, and you know how technology is at times. So yes, so our stakeholders want you to know that they love specials. We have a new PE teacher today, and I think just the experience of students getting the opportunity to go outside on a daily basis has been something new and exciting for them. We have our students' best interest at heart. We're always looking at our data to make sure that we're making the best choices for our students. We have fun teachers, we have good books, we have one-to-one iPads. We've been a one-to-one school for a while, so that's been great for our students. Our building is a very welcoming place. We were able, so last year, students were able to, they read a story in their benchmark unit, and they read about a group of kiddos that started a Be Kind Club. And so the second graders went to Mrs. Slavic, our teacher, and said, hey, we want to start a Be Kind Club. And we said, absolutely, let's do it. Not realizing that our first meeting would have over 60 students in the second grade classroom. So after that, we said, okay, let's go ahead and get some more support in there. But once a month, they would get together and they would just do kind acts for the whole school. And it was incredible to see how the students took these opportunities and became their ownership. And then I love that the third graders from this year were yesterday last year's second graders, and that they had recognized immediately that opportunity to have an idea become true for them. And then a couple of other things that we have been doing in our school. So last year, we were able to get a lot of activities in before we had our COVID closure. We have our Panther Bank, we have our Georgia Matthew Movie Night, which is an opportunity for parents to get a little bit of extra time without their kiddos. It is also an opportunity for teachers to do some fundraising. We participated in the district homecoming parade. We always do walk to school day with having the tally trail right behind us. It's an easy activity that we get to join in. We had Halloween celebrations. We've done our Thanksgiving where we had an amazing turnout of families last year. Something new that we did was our season of giving, where each grade level concentrated on giving something back to the community during our month of December. And for 2020-21, we still want to give our students those amazing school experiences. So we continue to have Spirit Week. Walk to School Day was last week. We will start our Panther Bank this week. We'll continue to celebrate Red Ribbon Week. This first semester, our book fair will be virtual, and then we will go back on site is what the hope is in the spring. We are going to pilot what's called our Fall VIP Night. So our Fall VIP Night will be a family engagement night that we do via Zoom, and it allows the families to get together for the grade level where they will still be learning some content on how to support their kiddos at home, but just continuing to have those really important meetings with our parents. We'll continue our season of giving for our second annual one, and then we're still planning on the Reader Cost America, our spring VIP night, and then our book fairs in the spring. And kind of, our parents, we've been advocating to them a lot that we're adjusting as we need. Our students' safety is at hand the most of what we want to make sure that everyone is being safe and well. And so our stakeholders have been very open and flexible with us as we are navigating through these times. So as I have said, something new that we have to our school is our remote learning program, and I just wanted to let you know the amazing things that they're doing in our school as well. So each grade level has taken to Zoom and have given our kiddos some amazing experiences. Our remote teachers in kindergarten, they are gonna go on a Zoom field trip where they will learn about show cows and harvesting Milo. Our first grade, Mrs. Heather Mitchell has really taken, personalized learning to a new level. A couple of weeks ago, she was dropping off her son at the airport, and she took the opportunity to film a video of the ticket counter, the luggage carousel, the tarmac, and then the students had to write about where they would want to travel to if they were gonna take a plane anywhere. And she got some really great responses from them. They've also learned about different animals. One of her kiddos chose the red panda, so she was able to go to the zoo and record the animal in the habitat. They've also talked about food. She's gone to Dillon where she's recorded some videos there, and then have also showed them videos for Garmin, which are native plants in Garden City. Our second grade remote teacher are going to pilot a Zoom museum. It is when the students are going to create some habitats, and then they'll go into breakout sessions, and other students will be able to listen to them present their information as museum curators. And then our students also got to explore last Friday the Liberal Fire Department, where one of our teachers, Mrs. Fox, her dad is the fire chief there, so the kids had a blast. Third grade, on Friday, they got to meet Senator Dole and the mayor of Garden City, and this is where they had a chance to have the guest speaker in their Zoom session, and they were able to connect all of the information they learned from Benchmark with our two different representatives of the state and of the city. And then fourth grade, so with Mrs. Palmer, she is fascinated about history, and so she explored with the kiddos the story of Elvira Valenzuela, who was a local girl that helped to desegregate the pools back in the early times. And with that, the kiddos are going to get to also explore, so Mrs. Palmer will go on a local cemetery tour, and she will be recording different stories for the students, just capitalizing on that on the personalized learning that the kiddos really like, and giving them the opportunities to learn about past lives of Garden City citizens. So, our remote teachers have been doing a fabulous job with incorporating ideas and really creating unique learning experiences for our students. Becky, Caitlin, do you guys want to add anything?
I think we're just a little tiny school, and I think that our reputation hasn't always been great in the past, but we've really proven this year by accepting these new teachers in, and they're so excited to be there, and Georgia Mathis is just so welcoming, and we love being there. Those of us that are there have committed to being there, and we just love our little school and our families, and it's such a great place to go every day. That we're thankful to have each day that we're getting with those kids in the building district. If you have not been, we'd love for you to come by and check us out.
Yeah, I agree with Becky. I think that it's really evident just with the new remote teachers that we've added to our school, just how they constantly feel welcome and just appreciated to be there and feel just explore to see that. And I agree. I think all of us really love coming to work every day. Our students really love being there. They love coming to school. They're so excited to come every morning, just to get to learn with us all day long. And it's been cool to see just how many new ideas and initiatives have really been brought to life over the past couple of years.
Board members, do you guys have any questions for us?
I have a question. Can you share with us some of the Be Kind Club, some of the activities that they've done?
Sure, Ms. Walker, do you want to take that?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, my students came to me last year and they asked if we could start a Be Kind Club. They actually read a story about not bullying, and so the story that they read was actually a club based on not bullying, and they wanted to spin it in more of a positive light. And so they wanted to make it a Be Kind Club. And so some of the things that they've done, they've written notes to family members, they've done things for other staff. They did like Halloween surprises for our staff last year. all of the ideas actually came from the students, the things that they wanted to do. And so the second graders came up with all of the ideas that we did last year. And then the whole school was, that anyone that wanted to be involved in it was allowed to come and join. And so all of the students were completely, or all of the ideas were completely come up by students, and then we just executed them.
That's
The
great.
Slavic was it, for the fall time or the spring that they generated a list of 100 kind acts, and we hung it in our hallway, and then you would have kiddos passing by all the time, or the middle of the class asked if they could go and initial it, so we kept track of everything that we had gotten done right before. We had everything completed right before spring break, which was really great, but I mean, the kids would go and look at the list and would make sure all the way down that all of their kind of acts had been executed.
Yeah, and we hung that on a big poster paper in the front of our school, and so, yeah, like Pam said, they would just walk past it, and they would want to go and do a kind act. And the Be Kind Club came up with all of those. I think it was for like World Kindness Day or something like that.
That's great, thank you.
Any other questions? It sounds like great things are going on in Georgia Matthews. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak with us today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, thank you, and like Mrs. Slavic said, and Mrs. Alexander said, you guys are always welcome to come and visit our buildings.
Thank you so much. At this time, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
There's a motion to approve the consent agenda by Alex. Is there a second? Seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Stephanie, do you want to do the roll call?
Laura,
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Jennifer,
She said aye.
Alex.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Glenda, do you want to take up the COVID-19 update and plan changes?
Absolutely. Are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about changes to the plan and a little bit of data with that. Hope you like my new COVID suit. That is what I'm recommending for possibly level 5, maybe. So we're going to recommend some plan changes. What I put here is it's a work in progress or trial by fire. Either one is probably appropriate because we're learning every day as we go new things, what's working and what isn't working. The first thing that I do want to talk about is level 3-5. The only difference, what I have on the screen is everything that's in level 3, what you see in red is what the difference is. So the only difference would be that masks would be required for grades pre-K through 12. One of the things that we're hearing as we talk to the health department is that something that we're doing is working. We are having more kids in school, we're having more good days. We're at week 6, and they believe that it is the mask that is helping us. So even if we are able to go to level 3, we would like to make sure that we have that option at level 3.5 to say everybody still wears a mask. Then we do also still then have 3 where we could go back and say the elementary would not wear masks, for example. The difference between level 3 and 4 is primarily at the elementary schools. So at level 3, classes can play together. There's safe classes to limit mixing of students. There's a recess area rotation, so one group may have the playground equipment while another has the field where they play kickball hall, and another one may have the walking track or something like that. Lessons are in the library, they're in the science room, the kids go to those specials. At level 4, the playground equipment is closed, fields, walking track areas, basketball courts are open, but buildings may also have to schedule that space for different groups in different classrooms. The library lessons are on the device or over Zoom, where the teacher can go to the classroom, the science teacher goes to the classroom. So those are the differences that we see primarily at the elementary level for those between level 3 and 4. There aren't as many differences at the secondary schools.
There are no differences, or there are not as many differences?
There's not as many differences. One of the other things that I would like to know before I talk about the book, I'm getting ahead of myself, before I get, there we go, to the next one, is with this, one of the things that we've been asked frequently is, why haven't you differentiated the levels yet and put different schools on different levels? Because that was brought up this summer, that was something that we could look at. A couple of things come to mind on that. One, we wanted to see how this would work, and we wanted to be able to make sure what worked and what didn't. And the only way we can do that is to keep everybody at the same level. The other thing is, in looking at that with the health department, they feel that with the community factors that we include, so we do include hospitalizations and outbreaks and things like that in the community, that there needs to be a baseline. So we look at all of those factors, and we need to look at that baseline and say, this is the minimum level. So whatever level we are as a district, once we start differentiating, we don't go below whatever that district level is. So if we decide our district level is 3.5, that's the lowest any building would go, and then the other levels could be higher. For example, with Jenny Barker most recently closed, they're at level 6, so they are the level that's higher than our district level. So I do want to talk a little bit about, or look a little bit at what could we do to differentiate some of those levels. So even if we went to a level 3.5, we have several buildings that are yellow, for example, and are having outbreaks. Those buildings perhaps should not go to level 6.5. They should possibly stay at level 4. And again, we do have a building at level 6. So I think it's time to start looking at differentiating between buildings.
I've got a quick question, if I may, Linda.
Mark?
It just seemed timely, so sorry for the interruption. But
No, you're good.
transportation is a challenge with the different levels too, isn't it? At the different schools?
Yes. Charlie has talked to us about that, and transportation is going to be impacted at level 5 and level 6, and that is something they're experiencing this week as well. So with Jenny Barker not running, we still have to go and run the Jenny Barker route because we have kids that go to the middle schools and the high school. So there's fewer kids and it's happening a little faster. But there will be times when we have kids that are forced transferred to another building, perhaps, that we'll have to make sure that we don't miss those kids. And we'll have to always maybe double check those routes or run those routes to make sure that if there's a child that's forced transferred to Clear Cross Town, maybe to Edith Sherman, for example, that we can do that.
Linda, can I jump in and,
Please.
add a little more to that too? So Charlie tells us it's not 100% pure, but it's pretty close, that most of the kids on the bus are going to the same school. So he can basically have, if that school happens to be at level 4, they could be on their level 4 protocol. But if it's a school going to, or a bus going to a school at level 3.5, they would be able to make that adjustment. I don't, in terms of masks, I don't think there's a significant difference with transportation. But I understand where your question's going. Charlie believes we can accommodate this and make it work with transportation.
Thank you.
As the professional development part of the plan, we learned this last in-service day, again, trial by fire. The district office level 4 says masks are required and social distancing at meetings, and if that's not possible, then the meeting should be held development level 4, the math is required, and all group sessions would be virtual, including building and district training. So we are asking that those two levels match, and we recommend that the professional development language match the district office. So we want what is written in the district office be moved to the professional development level 4. For special education, again, another trial by fire and learning as we do. They originally said that all meetings would be held via Zoom, and this was to reduce traffic in the buildings and have a lot of outsiders coming in, or a lot of people coming in for meetings. What they're finding is that parents in particular would like to be in person. They're not all as comfortable with the technology as some of us are, and as we found out earlier, we're not, it doesn't always work for us either. So we want to be able to allow those parents to come in, and then maybe the other professional members of the team to zoom in from their home school. So we just changed one word, all IEPs may be held via Zoom or conference call at all levels to reduce traffic.
Glenda?
Yes.
I have a question on that, sorry. Would that be contingent on the level that the school is at?
Yes.
Thank you, I just wanted to clarify.
So with remote learning, originally we had statistical laws, parents statistical laws of the number of minutes that their children were putting in at home. This was very problematic. It was problematic for parents. Some parents were working and their children were doing lessons at the sitter. They were doing lessons at home by themselves. Maybe grandma and grandpa were helping them, and we were missing a lot of minutes. It was just very difficult to track. And then on Monday, those logs would come into the remote learning teachers, and they would have to make sure they were correct, because this was our audit. This was how the state was going to count these kids for us when we were audited. This was just, I imagine if you asked most of our remote teachers, they weren't going to tell you. It was just a nightmare, because they were starting on Monday looking at these logs, and they were still looking at last week's logs on Friday, trying to make sure they were correct. The state actually sent this email out to us and said, we hear you, we're listening, we're not going to do the logs anymore, we're going to add insurances document, and we want the school to sign an insurances that goes to the parents, and the parents to sign an insurances for the school. Literally, the state sends us the document, and as you can see this, I took this straight from the state, what they sent us. They left the blank for us to put in the 457 number, and the assurances that we want you to use. So this is the part of what the school will do. Again, you've heard a lot of this before, but one meaningful daily connection with a local teacher. The progress will be monitored by local teachers. CD will be offered to the educators. We're going to have, again, up here, do a construction coincide with on-site classes. Then the parents also had to sign their part of it, and their part said, I'm going to provide support to my children to help them with the work to the best of my ability. I highlighted that because this part is really bothering for folks, because I might work and I still might come home and my kids have done all of their work, and I don't have that much time to give to them to troubleshoot their math, for example. It says to the best of your ability. It doesn't say it's going to be perfect. And then I agree that my children will be communicating with staff on a regular basis. And if they can't participate on a given day, we're going to notify the school. This last one is not new. We ask all parents to do that even if they're on site. If your child's going to be absent, please call us and let us know. So these were the assurances that the state sent us. I'm going to go back to this one. So again, we're asking that we remove the logs from our plan and add the state assurances. And again, I want to just reiterate that this is from the state, it's mandated in order for us to receive our funding. This is how the county how we should tell our parents that we're going to give them the best that we can give them.
Well, and Dr. Carlin wants to add something.
I think Linda just hit on it, and that is that, the state has started with the logs, shifted to this. This is a key component for us to get funding for our remote kids. They have explained that these assurances will be necessary in our audit process. So, I just think it's important for people to understand this isn't a change that the district made. This is something that has come from the Kansas State Department of Education. It's really not an option for us unless we don't want to get funded for those students. But in the big scope of things, I think it has drastically simplified. We had a lot of our remote parents that were concerned about the process to do the logs. We had a lot of teachers that were concerned about the time that it was taking to be involved with those logs. So it is considerably streamlined. And, I think Glenda made the point. We're not looking at this as a gotcha. This is something to say, hey, we're both going to do the best we can here with this. And remote learning is new for us, but these are the things that we're going to focus on that we think are, will help kids be successful.
Does the state give you an indication, what would happen if, for example, a parent decided that they didn't want to sign that insurance?
The norm would be when they come out to do our audit, they will randomly select kids. And if we have a student who we don't have signed assurances form for, they will not fund that student. So we would lose all of the funding for that student. Now, we haven't been through the process yet, but that would be typical of the way their auditing process works.
Thank you.
I'm assuming or presuming that they're pretty good about working with us. If we run into one of those circumstances, that they don't sort of automatically project a certain percentage of our district as being non-compliant.
Yeah, and again, I think they understand we're all going through something kind of new here, and we're gonna have to kind of work together on that. I don't think the goal is for them to withhold funds. I think they're trying to have an accountability piece on their end too, but I do think they'll work with us.
Well, we're certainly not alone as a district in these issues.
Yeah, no,
The other thing with the assurances is, well, this is on the board for tonight and to be added to our plans for tonight. The state did give us a deadline that any remote students had to have those assurances signed by October 4th. And then they want 100% of our families, as best as possible, that we can get them in the event that we end up on level 6 to sign them as well. But they didn't give us a deadline for on-site students that may go hybrid or may go to level 6. But remote families had to already have those turned in. So families have immediately have already gotten out for our families. At the
So-
early childhood.
go ahead,
Yes.
Glenn.
Okay. At the early childhood center, the current language is that group A students would come Monday and Wednesday, group B would come on Tuesday and Thursday, and Fridays would alternate weekly with group A and B. When the early childhood team looked at that, they realized that this didn't match what the other schools were doing when they do a straight alternate A, B, A, B. And they were concerned that sibling groups would not be going to school on the same day. So they're recommending that their virtual calendar match all of the other schools' calendars and go with a straight A, B, A, B. Then they had a couple of other corrections, just typos really, but at level 3, it says above level 4, it needs to be changed. So one said level 3, it needs to be changed to level 4 on 2 different pages. So there was just some typos about what they were going to do at level 4.
So I have a question about that, Linda.
Okay?
So that's not happening right now then? The current plan, level 4, where they're alternating days, is not happening?
So, that was a typo and that has been removed. So when the plan was typed up, that had half and half was actually at level 5, but it showed up as non-level 4, so that's been taken off, and that will only be for level 5.
Okay.
Drew, I'm gonna let you pick up on the athletics team.
Okay, no problem. All we really have for athletics, moving forward, Tasia has made a map, and I'll take it again. Moving forward for us, that's a couple more football games, a couple road soccer games. Not a whole lot outside left, but those outside events moving forward, Tasia's gonna mandate that. So what I'm asking is that our guidelines and our policy match what Tasia's going to have. They're also gonna limit crowd size to 50%. We're already, well beyond 50%, so that's not an issue for us.
Okay, and before I get into the data piece of it, I will just ask that you consider a motion for each of those to approve each of those changes in the plan. And then I'll go on to our data that we've been seeing. So, COVID leave days used, I took the last data I had the last week, so 10/5 to 10/8, we used 192 and a half COVID leave days. Cumulative leave, 796 and a half days. Employees missing days due to symptoms, the last week, 24, cumulative, 160. Employees positive, this goes up this week, folks, but, at the last, count, 11, cumulative is 38. Employees quarantined, at the end of 10/8, there were 30, and cumulative, we've had 230 employees quarantined. Employees tested, 21, and cumulative, that was just at 10/5 to 10/8 for those 3 days, cumulative, 169. Questions about that data?
Can I ask how many days we've been in school so far?
6 weeks, so most of those days.
Approximately a sixth of our school year, we've completed 6 weeks. There's been some short weeks in there.
It's a Monday, do you have like an approximate? That's perfect.
I would guess 27-ish probably,
27 days we've been.
I would guess.
Thank you, sorry, I know I should.
Yeah.
Linda, do you, can you help me here a little bit on my math? So what I'm trying to calculate is our infection rate. That being the number of people tested versus the number of people that are positive. So we have 38 employees positive, and we had 160, I'm having a hard time seeing it, 168 tested. 169, so an infection rate of 23%. Is my math right?
That sounds right, yes.
Do you have advice, thoughts, or are we considering infection rates as part of our decision-making process about levels? In other words, my secondary question is, do you know if that infection rate is low, medium, or high?
That is very close to what the community infection rate is.
Correct. You know if that's low, medium, or high?
25, I believe, is the magic number with the health department to flag as like an outbreak. Not necessarily outbreak in one location, but 25 is the one that we're watching. So we're very close to that. As being a flag.
Yes. I guess from my perspective, a 25% infection rate is a very big red flag. I don't know if we're, I suppose that Dr. Burns is trying to help us understand that infection rate is something, raw numbers can be misleading because it's not taken into consideration population, but infection rates can be very illuminating about which direction we're going and how much infection we're actually getting, given our limited population of the school district. So I hope to make the point that infection rate is a number that should be considered and reported, in my opinion, in just my opinion.
Sure. One of the things that we are trying to do with that is determine whether or not the infection has spread from a school contact or from contact at work. And until just very recently, we were able to trace all of the positives to an outside contact. Most recently, with Jenny Barker, we believe that a lot of it is happening at school, but that was really probably the first one that we were tracking to school structure.
What kind of process is followed for contact tracing? Is that done by the health department, or do we have employees in a district that are doing the contact tracing? And are we contact tracing thoroughly, or as good as we can?
The health department probably has the bottom line and the real say in this, but they contact us and they ask us, for example, if it's a student, we send the seating chart for every class that student is in. If they travel to a sporting event, we write down the seating on the bus or the van. That is all sent to them. Then they ask us about mask compliance with each of those seating charts. So was there mask compliance, or were several students sitting in that area, their masks off for whatever reason? Were they in the van going to an athletic event and were the masks on, for example? So those are the types of things that the health department has been asking us, and our nurses have been doing an astounding job tracking that and pulling all of that together. And the health department is each of these positives.
And the health department is then just monitoring those that have had direct contact. We're not testing anyone who's had direct contact.
That's up to the health department. But what they have told us is they want, if they ask somebody to be tested, it's usually asymptomatic. We don't do any of it. We don't tell them to have to be tested. Just the family.
So that would be between the family and the health department.
Yeah, for the students.
Thank you.
And, yeah, and some of the families have chosen not to have their children tested if they're symptomatic, but then they still have to sit out the full 10 days, just like they would if they were positive.
I have a follow-up question on that. I know somebody who was tested today, and when they received their negative results, they were told to watch symptoms though, because they had seen a number of false negatives. Have we received anything from the health department on anything like that going on in the community?
We have had one teacher that tested negative, and a few days later redid the test and was positive. What we're being told is that they have to be symptomatic for 24, Dr. Carly may have jumped in here, 24 to 48 hours in order for the rapid test to be the most accurate. If they test soon with the rapid test, it could be a false test, false result.
Even with the negative test, Janine, they need to be symptom-free for 72 hours before returning to work, even with the negative. And we receive their work clearance from the health department when they're cleared to come back to work, and again, as long as they're symptom-free.
Okay, thank you.
Do we, what is the health department charging for the tests? Are they returns, how are they getting reimbursed, or are they getting reimbursed?
I don't know, but there's no cost for people that they test.
So parents who've chosen not to test their kids are not doing it for financial reasons. Thank you.
Linda, I have a couple more questions. Can you go back a slide? Because again, it's Monday and I'm not a math person, so I want to know if what I'm thinking in my mind is right. So when we look at the COVID leave days used, if we had 796 days used within the last 27 days, then that's approximately, let's say 29 per day. And that jumped to 48 per day if we look at just these last 4 days, like 10/5 through 10/8. So have we seen the number of
So that,
people or staff?
the way we report this may be a little misleading.
Okay.
First, I think this data goes all the way back to July 1. So
It's
this
not
would,
just
this would
July.
include employees that were working in July and August that might have needed COVID leave. And I think Jessica in our business office tracks this, and because she wouldn't have the time to chart out every day when, like if a person tests positive or is quarantined for 10 days, she puts in all 10 days the day she learns about it. So it's not a real time kind of, that we can look back at that particular day. It just basically tells us from July 1 until now, or until the 8th, we knew about 796 and a half COVID leave days. But some of those are still, projected into the future, because the ones she learned about on the 8th, if they were gonna be quarantined for 10 days and on leave, they couldn't work from home, their job wouldn't allow that. Or if they were symptomatic and they said, I'm gonna be taking leave, I'm not gonna be able to work, then she would put all 10 days into there.
Okay, so on average, our number of staff, I don't know how to articulate a good question. So, do we see the number of staff absent going up or down due to COVID? So, does that make sense to you what I'm asking? Okay.
Yeah. Linda, you wanna tackle that one, you want me to?
I'll let you start and I'll jump in if I need to.
I believe here in the last couple of weeks, we have seen an increase in our number of staff that are testing and in our number of staff who have tested positive. So I think we are seeing a slight increase in that. Interestingly, our number of students during the last week or two, I think last week we only had 3 students test positive all week. So we've seen it. I mean, there is some fluctuation, but we've seen it go down. But it is, I think it would be accurate to say, in the last 2 weeks, and you can see in the data here, from 10/5 to 10/8, we had 11 positives and a total of 38 employees. So a little, not quite a third of the positives happened in that window.
Thank you.
And I might add, the health department is doing everything they can to encourage the rapid testing for our employees. And speaking from personal experience, because I did not go to the health department, my test was done, it can take several days for results to come back. So, an employee that is test has to be sent out on, would have to be COVID leave from the time they were tested until they got the results. And so that has an increased leave ability there as well. But with the health department willing to do the rapid test for our employees, that helps tremendously.
Linda, is this data being shared with the building administrators, the teachers, all of the above? Do we have any privacy issues sharing this? I mean, this is a public forum. I wouldn't guess there would be privacy issues related to this.
These are just numbers here. I think we'd run into a few more problems if we, had to list of all of our employees that were positive on here, but, just sharing the numbers, I think we're fine.
Are we sharing the numbers?
Dr. Carlin does a weekly update to all of the staff, and, Dr. Carlin, you may want to jump in, but, most days, we really are sharing quite, or most weeks, we really are sharing quite a bit of the data with them.
Yeah, and I need to go back, a comment was made tonight, that maybe in the last couple of emails that I've sent out, maybe not as much information was included there. I need to go back and look at that, because that's certainly not intentional in any way. So if I didn't include as much information in the last couple of weeks, I'll probably go back and make sure that information goes out. We don't share every number because there's a huge amount of numbers. And what we've tried to do is just kind of put some information out there that's, reasonable summary or, pieces of kind of critical data that we look at. But I'd say again with the health department, we meet daily with our team, looking at attendance, looking at student attendance, employee attendance, looking at positive cases, looking at how many COVID leave days have been used to this point. I mean, we're looking at an awful lot of information every day as we're making those determinations for what classrooms go yellow, and making sure that gets accurately communicated out to our different stakeholder groups. We meet twice a week with the health department, at least twice a week. Sometimes they come to those daily meetings, but we have 2 meetings with the health department where we're looking at the data about the levels, and we have another meeting where we review all of the activities that are scheduled for the coming week, the in-town activities as well as the ones that we're sending groups of kids to. So there's a tremendous volume of information that we look at, and it's not all school stuff. Some of it is that hospitalization, that positivity rate in the community, the non-congregate living cases, those kind of things. So we are trying to take kind of a more than just a view of what's happening in the district, but what is happening in the community at the same time, as we make those decisions jointly with the health department. And in most of those meetings, Holcomb participates, as well as a representative from the parochial schools here. They don't participate in the activities meeting, but they do participate in the meeting where we kind of set our baseline levels. Yeah.
So did you visit with them about this proposal of going to 3.5 with the teachers?
Yeah, so we have, we talked to the health department about that. They're supportive of the idea. And again, to summarize, this really gives us some of the flexibility in level 3 but requires the masks. That's the big difference. And I know Belinda has mentioned it tonight, but I think the other thing is we are probably at the point, at level 4, if that's our baseline level, thank goodness we haven't had until this issue happened at Jenny Barker and we needed to move to level 6 this week. We really haven't had to go beyond the level 4. So we haven't really had the opportunity to make adjustments based on what's happening in the individual buildings. Because we see we need to set that baseline level. Again, the health department was supportive of that idea. And then if we need to raise the level for buildings based on their activity, then we could do that. If the board approves level 3.5 tonight, we will set the baseline level for the district at 3.5 tomorrow. But I think based on the data that we looked at today, there's 5 schools out of our 18 that might stay at level 3.5. All the others we would increase to level 4 and Jenny Barker to level 6 anyway, because they have had some kind of a positive case, whether that be a student or a staff, within the last couple of weeks. We have classrooms on yellow. But for those schools that aren't having issues, And those are 5 elementary schools, I believe, is that right, Glenda?
Yes, 5 elementary schools and the alternative high school, so not a whole lot of students for them.
But they would have, basically, they're in those schools, because we haven't been having cases, then we would have the opportunity to relax some of those restrictions, let the music teacher teach from their classroom, let the kids use the playground equipment, let the science teacher work back from their classroom again. But if we start having, if we would have activity again in that building, then we would up that building probably right back to level 4. So it would just give us some flexibility to, again, we've said all along, we want to make decisions based on what the data and the evidence tells us. So, for example, things at the high school, like the high school would be at level 4 still. So all the restrictions that are in place that deal with activities and crowd size and all those kind of things, those would still be in place, even though we would add level 3-5, and that would be our baseline level for the week. We will adjust each of those buildings because of their activity, their virus activity.
So I do want to revisit that while you're on that topic, because I think sports is a big concern. And when I read the plan that is online, it has at level 4, it takes down gymnasium activities and I believe soccer to 35% capacity. So is that happening? And if they stay at level 4, they will stay at that? Because he just presented a number that it was at 50%, and I believe that's level 3.
Yeah, so that is, the number that Drew shared with us is what Keisha is doing. We're not gonna change our capacity numbers to be less restrictive than what they are now. Those would stay the same as what we originally approved in our plan. But what we would do is, Keisha has announced, and we didn't know this until last week, that at any of their postseason events, inside or out, masks will be required. And what we're saying is we would change our plan so that at any of our events from this point forward, masks inside or out, masks will be required. And that part of our plan would be consistent with what Keisha's gonna require at their events.
And so how do we enforce that? Because masks are required now, but if they're
Yes.
not required at sports. I thought they were at level 4.
Inside events,
Inside events.
outside
Okay.
events, and so that is the difference for us.
Okay, I thought that they were required outdoor too, unless you could social distance.
No, they're recommended unless you can social
Okay,
distance
thank you.
at outdoor events.
And the 35% attendance rate is, we're confident that that's been adhered to through the football season?
Drew, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, we're confident. We actually have stayed below 35, a little bit at level 4. The last home football game we were at 28 to 6 volts. So, any of our inside events are well below 35, I think they're closer to 20%. Soccer is in the team, good wise, when we have those events.
But how do,
And we track all of that.
how do we enforce masks indoors at indoor activities?
I walk around and ask them to put their stuff if they don't have it on. We provide them masks when they walk in. If they happen to come with a mask, we have a couple boxes of masks at the door. And if they come in without a mask, then we provide them with one. We do have some patrons, and most generally it's people from out of town that come in and will pull their mask down, and I'll have to remind them to pull their masks up. We've had a number of home events, and I haven't really had to get very confrontational with anybody. Most people, when you ask them why they pull a mask up, they'll pull it up because most of the time it's a parent or a grandparent of a student watching the game, and they want to watch the game. Obviously, if they continue not to wear a mask, at a point we would ask them to leave.
Okay. I've been through a volleyball season of indoor sports, with indoor seating, obviously, and I just think that it's, not necessarily enforced, and I don't know how I wear my mask because I feel like it's the right thing to do. I respect other people's choice, but when it's posted and it's not enforced, I don't know who's responsible to enforce that at the district, because I wouldn't want to be that person. And I just see that it's not completely enforced in indoor sports, so that's why it's a concern as we move into basketball season, which tends to be a little bit more popular than maybe volleyball. No offense, I know Reagan's a volleyball player. So that is a concern. Because Mr. Tone can't be everywhere, you know?
But we do have an administrator in charge, assigned, at least one administrator, and I think probably at basketball games and events that have more people, there's probably more who are there, who are in charge, and we do have employees, and we do have security available at those events as well. So that is the policy of the district, and folks, I don't have a choice. It's not, does Steve want to enforce this or not? Though that is the policy of the district, and we will enforce it. Now, I'm not gonna say we never miss something, but we shouldn't miss things very often. And I think that's, you know, I've only been able to be at one of the volleyball matches, the indoor events this fall, and I can attest to what Drew told me. The Garden City people did a great job. I think I saw 2 fans from other communities that were not wearing masks, and they were both addressed in a relatively short period of time at the event I was in.
And if you see, you know, because we have middle schools and high schools and a whole bunch of different places. If you see that maybe it's not being enforced, please send me an email, and I can address it specifically, because we do have workers that work those events and help monitor that, so that I can address that a little more directly and when it happens.
And my intent is not to get people in trouble or point out a problem, it's to point out my concern as we move forward with bigger sports indoors or bigger events indoors, if there's some lenience with that, so.
Well, I think it's a great point, Dan, and remember, we're doing these things not because we want people to wear masks. We're doing these things because we believe it increases the likelihood that these kids get to have their activities and to try to keep the community as a whole safer. So, I think most of our employees see that the same way. Most of our kids, I think, you know, kids don't probably get up and want to wear a mask, but if it's the choice between, hey, is my volleyball season going to get to happen if I wear a mask? Or is it less likely to happen if I don't? I think even with our kids, we've seen pretty good mask compliance with people in most instances, because I think the kids understand this is increasing the likelihood that we get to have our whole season.
Yeah, I think it was just a concern with going to and or having a 3.5. So I think the knowledge also of that not everything is gonna go down to 3.5. Maybe those schools that have fewer is more comforting, and it is to me too. So I just, from questions and concerns that have come my way, I wanted to.
I agree with Dana. I did want to ask, with what Drew described and where we're headed, I pointed that direction, he's out there somewhere. We went to high school ever revert back to 3.5, particularly on athletic events, given what Keisha has come out with.
When would they?
What would be the condition that we would do that? It would have to be a significant improvement in the data and those daily and weekly collaborations to be able to say, hey, we think we can safely move the high school to 3.5, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So we're hoping to really primarily address the elementary schools where we're seeing a much less threat of infection. And specifically what we're trying to do is give them access to, as you mentioned, maybe some more music instruction, and then the outdoor playground equipment.
And science and, you know, I mean, the feedback we've got from the elementaries is that they buy into the masks for everybody, but the extra restrictions that get to level 4, if they're not having virus activity in their building, that those things have been cumbersome for them to have to deal with. Making some changes in how they do lunch, you know, those types of things.
I have fielded the question twice, why can my son play football and my daughter cannot play on the playground equipment when she goes outside to play? And I couldn't answer that question. I guess I also feel comforted by the fact that if we created 3.5, we're not necessarily saying tonight that that would be our baseline. We're just creating that avenue for those of you who are making the decision about the baseline. Right? We're not voting tonight to go to 3.5 as a baseline.
No, that's a decision that the board has empowered the administration to make.
Yes.
I do want to make it clear that we talked about at our meeting last Friday with the health department, that if this is approved, that we would make that our baseline on Tuesday, as long as our data didn't change so much between that meeting on Friday and today. And so that even though the board's not making that decision, that would be our intention tomorrow. But as I said, all but 5 of our buildings would automatically be moved up, and those other 5, we will take a deeper dive into kind of what their activity has been, and they may stay at 3.5, or some of those may move to level 4 too.
And those 5, if I heard you correctly, are all elementary schools.
And the Garden City Alternative
And
Education.
alternatives. Okay, thank you.
Janine, we've been patiently waiting.
Yeah, one of the things I was just gonna follow up, you know, and Dana and I both talked about the activities, you know, if we have a mask guideline in place and masks are required, and we don't enforce it, there's no point in even having it, you know, it's one of those things that if we're gonna make sure it's, you know, enforced while we're there, compliance is done, and I completely understand that. With the athletics, the things that's imposed, is this for every level? I just wanna make sure I'm understanding that. So masks for spectators at every level that we have, inside and out?
Correct.
Yeah,
That's what I just wanted to make
yeah,
sure.
712 case evidence, yeah.
Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure on that. Yeah, I feel like we're the, you know, we have us here that we're wearing masks, we have teachers that are wearing masks in the classroom every day, we have parents, spectators coming into events. I just feel like it's an important piece. That's really all I have. Lost a minute.
So I think we have 6 different recommended changes. And we, as cumbersome as this would be to act on all 6, we felt that was important because there may be concerns about one, and grouping them together may not be the right thing to do. So and I apologize for the short notice, but we are asking the board to take those on tonight, because the sooner we get those things in our plan, and a couple of them are kind of corrections, pretty basic stuff, but the sooner we have those available, the sooner that, you know, they can impact. For example, the athletics one, we have a home football game coming up, and if the board takes that action, then that's how the next home football game will be handled. So,
Glenda, have you finished your presentation? You can get a couple more slides.
oh,
Yeah, Yeah, there's one more slide, and that is the student data. I've got it up there, it's kind of self-explanatory. This was as of Wednesday, October 8th, when I put the PowerPoint together. Our daily attendance rate is about 91%, and that's holding fairly steady. Students sent home with symptoms, 8, we've had 0 before, and we've had 8 kind of high. Usually it's around 3 or 4 that now at this point. So early on it was quite a few, but I think parents are understanding what we're looking for and are just keeping those kids home now. Students currently quarantined, over 200. This was Wednesday, new students positive, that was 0. Today we did have 2 students positive, I believe. I'm trying to find that for you, but it looks like, I think that was 2 today. So, the total students year to date, that was as of Wednesday, was 42.
Glenda, on these numbers, are the students that are quarantined also part of the student absent number, or are those 2 separate numbers? Do we,
Those are, we count them separate, so we have a code that is just quarantine, and then we have an absent, so the absent rate should be the ones that cannot participate in anything.
Yeah, but the 202 that are gone are part of the 8.5% that are absent. Does that make sense? It's not 91 minus 202 more kids. That 9157 is our.
no, I get that part.
That's how many kids are at school, no, and so it doesn't differentiate.
I think she's wanting to know about the 608.
Same thing,
Okay, so the 608 includes the 202.
correct. The 608 is the total number of students absent, and 202 of them are for COVID quarantine.
So, but Linda just said we count them differently, the quarantine kids, we don't count them absent, right? Or is that quarantine? What? Sorry.
If they are quarantined and they're able to participate, they're not counted in our absent rate. So if they are able to participate in a live Zoom, Zoom in with their class, then they're not counted as absent. But we do count them separately so we know who's quarantined.
Right, so some of those 202 can learn remotely while they're quarantined, and if they're doing that, then they don't count as absent.
So we don't necessarily know how many of that 202 is part of the 608.
That's probably true, yes.
I do have a question going back, if I can, to, the professional development, and, there were a couple things on there, professional development and another one, where at level 4, masks are required and meetings are virtual. So what does that look like at 3.5? Because we have, staff in-service coming up, what's the expectation there? Is that gonna be virtual or in person?
It'll depend on, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, so if we are at level 4 or 5, if they can socially distance and wear masks, then they will be able to be in person. But if they cannot social distance, then they will be virtual. They will be remote. Did I say that right?
At level
They can
4?
be in person. Yeah. At level 4, if they can socially distance and wear masks, then they can be in person. That was actually the district office plan.
And so what's 3.5?
3.5 would be the same. They need to wear masks and socially distance. But at any point, if they can't socially distance, and some of our big schools can't socially distance, then they do it remotely.
Would you go back to that slide? I'm sorry, I'm a visual person.
So the top is what our district office level 4 says. So the social distancing is required at all meetings, and it's not possible then those meetings to be held virtually. At level 4, the professional development currently says all sessions will be virtual, so it doesn't give the option of having it in person if they can social distance. And we're asking that we match the district office.
So
will you just clarify for me, what is the expectation as the upcoming, teacher in services?
If they can socially distance and wear masks, they can be in person. But if they're too big for that and they can't effectively social distance, then they will need to do it virtually.
Okay.
And Glenda, just, I don't have it in front of me, but level 3, if I remember correctly, is masks are required and social distancing is recommended, is that correct?
Yes.
So, Dana, your question, if one of the buildings was at level 3-5, then that would be the expectation for their professional development. Masks would be required, and they would be recommended to socially distance, but it wouldn't be required. Both of them. Does that make sense? Both would not be social, masks required, social distance recommended at level 3. At level 4, masks required and social distance required, or do it virtually. So we might have in those buildings, if they haven't been having virus issues, where they're gonna be wearing masks, but they wouldn't have to do masks and distancing.
So with that, it's gonna go by building during in
Correct.
services. That's probably what I was looking for, thank you.
Yes, and it's, you know, the high school is a whole different animal than Plymouth. You know, I mean, that's for a lot of reasons.
Sorry, it takes.
No, that's a good, really good question.
That's two like direct questions to get to where I want.
Do we want to go through each of the buildings and what their levels are at, or at least where they were? Glenda, do you want to go through that?
Yeah, I can. This has changed since if Hubert is yellow, Charleston is yellow, Garfield is yellow. That's it. So the rest are green. So there are buildings that could potentially go to 3.5. Yellow buildings and red buildings right now. Alta Brown has one classroom red, KH has one classroom red, and Garfield has one classroom red. That's a thing. That's it.
Thanks, Glenda.
Before I interrupted him, so Glenda could finish, Dr. Carlin is hoping to have action tonight, even though normally we try to give it a week, or give it a time period. And since some of us are remote and some of us are here, what I thought I would do is kind of suggest a motion. So if anybody wanted to make the motion, then they could do so moved, just to kind of help us along, and then we could have the discussion after that, if that would be appropriate, and then we could go from there. And then we can have the discussion and such. So if there was a motion to approve the addition of operational level 3.5 to the district COVID response plan.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Hannigan, is there a second? Second by Mark. Discussion, do we want to just go along, or one by one, or how do you want to start?
Just want to make sure that the guys out remotely have an opportunity to speak.
Jennifer, do you have any comments? We can't hear you at this point, I'm sorry. I think you're muted. Yeah.
So I don't really have any comments. I've expressed my feelings on masks and I presented information to support it. But I've been encouraged not to on that matter.
Alex?
I I've been, ever since this thing started and we came up with the action plan, and approved it back then, it was just the understanding that it was a living document. And as we, go, with Linda's comments, trial by fire, we learn from, the issues, we try to keep moving forward in a positive manner, the best information at that time that we have. So, which makes the living document, so, I'm okay moving forward on that.
Dr. Hanneman?
I would just say that the feedback I got from members of the community, I think was all addressed in the plan. And the ability of individual buildings to be at different levels. So, I'm in favor of this.
Dana?
Coming into it, I was definitely apprehensive. I feel like why change what's working? But what is working is that we are collaborating with the health department, and I feel like if you worked with them and they are on board with this plan, and I am comforted by the fact that, we're not gonna go 3-5 across the board. So, yeah, it's good, it's been good questions, so I appreciate, the patience and fully answering all those questions.
I really appreciate the comments and the emails that I've gotten with regard to the 3-5 creation, and some of the comments that I've seen on Facebook. I think what has really struck me is the differences in the elementary and the intermediate levels, especially with the schools that departmentalize in the intermediate and the elementary levels. Because right now, those teachers aren't able to teach in their classrooms, and they have to go to the kids. And I think when we heard from Mrs. Kennedy, I think it was, at the last board meeting, where she's having to go take her music class lessons into the classrooms, I think that addresses a lot of this as well. And, you know, the science classes and you know, one thing too, the libraries being closed, the playground equipment being, shut down too for the elementary kids. And I talked to one other teacher, and her comment was, you know, they can play with a soccer ball during PE, but they can't play with it during recess, because it's considered playground equipment or something. I don't know if that was just one specific instance, but it seemed a little odd. I don't know if that was just a weird day or what, but I think being able to free that up for the younger kids, especially considering some of the restrictions that are placed on them. But like Glenda mentioned, the high school, I think I saw 3 changes that were made between level 3 and level 4. Visitors couldn't leave the office, the library was closed, and then there was one other thing. So I actually printed it off and went line by line between each one to see what all the differences were, because I'm also a visual person and had to figure it out myself to see. And I think the creation of level 3.5, I think would be very beneficial and give us a lot more flexibility in making those changes. And thank you, Dr. Carlin, for walking me through this on Saturday. I appreciate it. And I think now that we're 6 weeks in and have a lot more data, I think will give you the ability to really see what schools need to be at 3.5 or 3 or 4 or 5 or someday 2, someday 1, hopefully, someday, hopefully. Hopefully we'll get there. So I'm in favor of doing 3.5, so. Any other comments, questions? Stephanie, you want to do the roll call? Laura? Aye.
Dr. Hannigan?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jennifer? Alex?
Aye.
Thank you all. At this point, I entertain a motion to approve the change to the professional development section of the district COVID response plan.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Moved by Alex, I'll take that as a second by Mark.
Gotcha.
Is there any discussion?
One more time, the change in the professional development is,
That's, changing the,
Master.
mass requirement.
yeah, or, no, making the large group.
Ah, okay.
It's basically putting the language that was in the PD section of the plan, making it consistent with our overall district operation levels, so it's fixing an inconsistency.
My attention span.
So it's social distancing at meetings required, if not possible, meetings should be held virtually. Correct? Any other questions or discussions? Stephanie?
Laura?
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jennifer?
I couldn't understand your vote, I'm sorry, Jennifer.
I'm not gonna vote on that.
Alex?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. At this point, I'll take a motion to approve the change to the special education section of the district COVID response plan. And that is, all IEP meetings may be held via Zoom or conference call at all levels to reduce traffic within each building. Correct?
It's basically changing it from, will happen to a may, so it's giving some flexibilities for some of our families that have a hard time connecting via Zoom.
So it's a shall to be made.
Right.
Motion by Janine, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by,
Second.
second by Mark, sorry, Alex. Is there any discussion? Stephanie?
Laura?
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, I entertain a motion to approve the updated remote learning assurances of the district COVID response plan. And that was the new language that we received from the Kansas Department of Education.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Hannigan, is there a second?
Second.
Second.
I'll give that one to Alex. Any discussion?
Well, just clarify, we have to do this or we don't get paid, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And even to clarify with you, the State Department told us, you all approved a version of assurances earlier, and they told us we didn't even need to have our boards approve the new one. We felt it was important for you guys to have the new ones and have the opportunity to approve them. And I apologize that we already started rolling that out with families, but we had the deadline for the funding, and that's why we put the cart before the horse a little bit. But yes, we want to get funded for these kids.
Thank you.
And we did vote on it prior,
We did.
a version of the prior. Any other questions or discussion? Stephanie?
Laura?
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the change to the early childhood section to the district COVID response plan. And that's modifying the AB calendar to coordinate with the remaining AB calendar, and then also fixing some typographical errors.
So moved.
Motion by Mark, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Janine, is there any discussion? Stephanie?
Laura,
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan,
Aye.
Dana,
Aye.
Janine,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Jennifer. Alex.
Aye.
This time, I'd entertain a motion to approve a change to the athletics section of the district COVID response plan. And that's the one to, for masks, for spectators, workers, and coaches. Mr. Town, is that the only change? Because the, crowd limitation was already in the plan, correct?
Yeah, we already had crowd limitations in there.
And is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion by Mark, second by Alex. Sorry, Alex. Discussion?
So I just want to clarify then. The ones that we had before is still standing, the way we had it.
The crowd limitation?
Yeah.
Yes. Because we're, Mr. Town, we're more restrictive than Keisha, correct?
Yes, we can be more restrictive than Keisha, not less restrictive than Keisha. Right now, we're at 35%, they're at 50%.
And we're staying that way with this, even with this adjustment. Okay, just 100%.
Correct, Mr. Combs?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Jennifer? Alex? My only concern with it is that I just saw 4 people get yelled at the homecoming game while they were taking tickets because of the mask requirement and the crowd size limitation. And they don't get paid enough to get yelled at. And that frustrated me, that parents were going up there and yelling at those ticket takers. And that's my concern. That they're enforcing board policy and that's what they're being subject to. So, I mean, there's nothing we can do necessarily. I mean, I happened to be there at one point. I don't think, now I'm outing myself. I happened to stop and intervene because the mom was yelling at the people, and I'm like, you know, hey, I know Mr. Soba made 3 different announcements talking about it. And, you know, stop to try to, you know, get them to stop yelling. But I was talking more as a band parent at that point, not as a board member. But it frustrates me that people are like that. So that's my only concern, is that that type of thing is going to be happening. So I don't know what we can do to stop that. But, you know, Mr. Tone, just so you know, that's what your ticket takers are facing. So, just so you know.
Thank you.
So, any other comments or questions?
I just follow up on that. I've made my position about attendance at these activities and the activities themselves in general, quite known. But I'm going to support this because I think that we lead by example, and despite my disagreement, I don't find it appropriate either for parents to be yelling at ticket takers, although I've seen some behavior towards just the umpires and referees that appalled me, so I'm not particularly surprised. I just hope in the community, in the spirit of trying to get along and everyone trying to do the best they can, will take the opportunity, even when they disagree, to be supportive of every effort that's being made by this administration, by the staff, by the teachers, and by everyone who's putting themselves at risk by being involved in this process.
Stephanie?
Laura?
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan?
Aye.
Dana?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Jennifer?
I should have said nay.
Alex?
Aye.
Thank you all. Okay, I think that takes us to truancy and attendance. Mr. Hogan, thank you all for all of your hard work on that. Appreciate it.
Okay, good evening, Keith Hogan, Deputy Superintendent. Are you all seeing the truancy update PowerPoint?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. So I want to start off by recognizing the troopers that I have with me this evening. Chastity Rukapa is on Zoom, as well as Danielle Nunez. They are our truancy officers in our district. So thank you, ladies, very much for hanging in here and being part of this presentation. So I'll give you one quick update on truancy, and we'll start off with our compulsory attendance overview. So just in brief summary, compulsory attendance in Kansas requires that every child between the ages of 7 and 18 be enrolled in school and attend on a regular basis. There are a few exceptions to this, and one of those is if a student has already received their high school diploma or completed a general education development program or a GED credential. And the other is if the student is 16 or 17 years old and their parents or guardian have signed a waiver to exempt them from the Kansas compulsory attendance law. So what is truancy? Truancy is the act of missing school without permission, often repeatedly. A student is required by law to attend school and they are not enrolled, or a student is truant from school, or if he or she is absent without a valid excuse for either 3 consecutive days, 5 days in the school semester, or 7 days in a school year will all trigger truancy. What do we do in these situations locally? So Chastity is our elementary truancy officer, and this is kind of her process. So once a student is identified as truant, so either hitting those 3, 5, or 7-day triggers, a first letter goes home, which is required by law before these ladies can file an affidavit for truancy. There has to be notification to the parents. So we send a letter home. There's a copy of the letter in the PowerPoint. I've also, since it's going to be very small on the screen and hard to read, I've given the board at your table a hard copy of that, and I believe there should be an email to those of you who are at home via Zoom, also to have that language that makes it a little more legible if you want to look through that. If an unexcused absence continues after that letter goes home at the elementary, we send a second notification letter home, basically just saying, hey, this first time we're making you aware of the situation, and it's still continuing to happen. So then the second letter is sent home prior to, or maybe coinciding with Chastity filing an affidavit for truancy, which is ultimately then the last step that she would take. Here's a copy of the letter that I was describing. It kind of outlines the law about what attendance is and why they're being identified as being truant. And secondary levels, Danielle is our truancy officer there, and again, student's gonna get triggered 3, 5, or 7 days. And then a letter goes home, again, it's required by law, it's the same letter for both, elementary and secondary folks, just personalized based on building. And then if the unexcused absence continues at that point, then we're filing an affidavit, with the county attorney. There isn't a second letter, but there is communication. Once that's filed, a parent or student, has to be both, they wouldn't have an opportunity to participate in a diversion contract, rather than having that be processed, through the court. So again, you have a copy of the first letter. This is the diversion contract that we use, at the high school level. So it's got what the student will agree to do to participate in this diversion, and it's got what the parent would agree to do, and this conversation, and then we keep those on file, to make sure that we're holding those folks accountable in that process. For our remote students, this is something new, obviously, with current pandemic and what we're dealing with now, but we talked a little bit about this with their assurances, but in order to track attendance with remote students, they have to participate in an active Zoom session. So some of our remote learners, they're actually home, their teacher is providing their instruction as if they were in classroom, and they have sessions that are just, I'm a member of class that I'm not sitting in a seat, I'm sitting in my seat in front of the camera at home, maybe similar to what we're doing right now, but I'm getting all the same instruction. So if they're participating in that, teacher obviously validates that and will count that for attendance. Another option to count attendance is that if a student is doing something remotely, they've got to make progress towards their goals, completing assignments, and then they have to attend a Zoom session or a telephone conference, with a teacher, kind of at the end. So some of the edgenuity stuff may be a little more independent. They may be sharing work, the teacher may be sharing work for them to do remotely at home, and then there's a check-in time each day that they would have to participate in. So making progress and checking in with the teacher, being available to do that, we can count them for attendance. If they're not doing those things, if they're not meeting those previous criteria, then at the elementary level for those remote students, Ms. Kent, who you met this evening, the principal of Georgia Matthews, and she's in charge of most of our remote elementary teachers. She's actually the one that's reaching out to them saying, hey, we might have a problem. Your students not been participating in the Zoom meetings, or they're not making adequate progress on the work that's being sent to them. And so she's reached out to talk to parents, and generally speaking, that's corrected the issue. So we haven't taken any necessary steps on. At the secondary level, we actually have 12 certified teachers that are helping with this remote contact. So one of those 12 people, depending on grade levels and those kinds of things, would be reaching out to the students to check in with them. And if they're having problems with attendance, then they give that information, Ms. Nunez, and then she is actually contacting the families just to check in with them. Maybe it isn't even that they've made the triggers of 3, 5, and 7, but it might just be that they're not doing their work. I didn't get a hold of Heath Hogan today, so could you reach out to them? So they're doing a lot of that work just to make sure things are going okay, that there aren't any issues, and then if it gets to the point of the trigger, I'll call it 3, 5, or 7, then we're taking our steps that we described earlier in the presentation. So to date, this was last week when we were working on our presentation and talking to these ladies. We had one affidavit filed at the elementary level, and again, no issues with remote. Principals made contact, but that's kind of taking care of it. We've had 3 affidavits filed at the secondary level. We had 10 first letters sent home for remote students, just kind of letting them know that their progress wasn't adequate, and we had 1 student at that time take advantage of our diversion contract. The board does have a policy on truancy, so I've provided that again as just for you to have. And this is if a parent were to want to sign out their child, so that's the exception that we mentioned in one of our earlier slides, being 16 or 17 years old. This is what they would go through with their counselor. There's a meeting involved. The counselor walks them through about how important it is to be at school. They talk a little bit about their ability to presentation, but I'd be glad to field any questions that you might have, or if Chastity or Daniela has anything to add.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I get a copy of that last slide, the one that you give parents? Can you send that to
Sure.
me, email it to me?
You want the form that they would need to fill out?
Just the one that shows the comparison and like, you said it kind of explains why education is important, right? That last one?
Yeah. Yeah, has their earnings on it, yes ma'am?
Yeah, I'd like to see that if you don't mind. It's so small
Sure.
and I'm blind.
Yeah, I didn't provide hard copies of that one, I apologize, but
No.
I will send it to you.
Thank you. And I do have one, sorry, Mark. I do have one other question. Do we try and get detailed information about students that become truant, like to kind of maybe see trends or, I don't know, to just better understand why students become truant?
Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that and your contacts as you're going through our process.
So for me, I do call them into my office and try to see if, if something is going on at home, if there's maybe mental issues, or some way that we can get the student to participate in school, give them other options, if they want to participate at the alternative education center, or if virtual would be better for them. So I try to call the student in and see what is going on, why they're not coming to school.
So have you noticed any particular trend, or is it all very unique stories?
Unique.
Thank you.
I have a lot of students who say they come from a single home, and mom works at Tyson, or she works day shift, and they can't get to school, they don't have transportation, or they're having issues with the bus, so I do give them the city transit, I tell them all the information, I go over the website with them, I tell them, this is where you're at, we need to call and see what time you need to be on that bus, or what time you need to be at that bus stop, so that you can get to school. Then, and it's free right now to the end of the year, so I tell them, you really have there's no excuse for you not to get here, if that transit is an option for you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mark?
Just a question on Zoom, and, there's records for these remotely attending students, and are we recording Zoom classes?
I don't know.
Are we recording the instruction that's provided? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, Zoom has a feature where you can record that meeting, so I'm just curious, is that one of the ways that teachers can sort of capture who's attending and not attending, that kind of thing?
I think it's maybe up to individuals a little bit. So there's our remote teachers, they've created a bank of lessons that can be utilized. Those are all pre-recorded and made available. If a teacher is providing that live in the classroom, I don't know the answer to that. Glenda, do you have the answer to that question?
It's done a variety of ways. Several of our teachers are Zooming live and recording, and then using those and sending it to students that couldn't attend the live Zoom. We have one teacher that's doing all live remote, and she's pairing up her hybrid students with an online student and having them troubleshoot as the kids are working through it, saying, hey, my partner here has a question and he's zooming in. That one's really cool, so we've got some wonderful teachers. Most of them are recording what they do so that they can check later or reuse them for kids that didn't participate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do we have someone who's certified with the ARISE program now?
I have the curriculum that I am not certified.
Are we going to get you certified?
I can check with Mr. Northey and see how that works. I didn't know you had to be certified
for it. Okay. That'd be a really good thing, Dr. Carlin. Okay.
Other questions? Okay, ladies, thank you again for your time this evening. Thanks for your help. Thanks for all that you do. I really appreciate you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. That'll give you good practice for court.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, now we're ready for the social emotional portion. Mr. Guyman?
Yeah, let me see if I can get my screen to share. Are you all able to see it? All right. We had our first meeting for the Social Emotional Advisory Council on the 30th of September. And during that meeting, we focused primarily on the new document that came out from the Kansas COVID Working for Kids Mental Health Task Force. And we just kind of went through that document, and the purpose of that was to gather that information and then to try to kind of prioritize what we wanted to focus on moving forward. And so in that document, it discussed 8 areas that need to be focused on for mental health with relation to kiddos as they come back to school. Social isolation, separation anxiety, staff well-being, internet safety, science literacy and COVID-19 knowledge, extra and co-curricular activities and sports, suicide prevention, and developing resilience. And so some of the things that we talked about with social isolation, a lot of the things that you'll see from kiddos as they've been away from school and away for quite a while, and now we're starting to come back. You'll see a lot of depressive symptoms, a lot of social anxiety. A lot of these things are observed in both adults and adolescents. Boys exhibit more of social anxiety, and girls tend to have more of a depressive symptom. And then they did a survey where they surveyed parents after social isolation, and it indicated about 1/3 of children required mental health treatment, primarily for trauma-related reactions to grief. Separation anxiety, we're seeing this a little bit as the kiddos are coming back to school and the parents are going back to work from being home for quite a while. A couple of things that are identified. One, getting used to being away from mom and dad and having to come back to school and dealing with that anxiety. But the other issue that you see happening is with all the things that are going on in the news, once the kids are separated from their parents, they worry and are in fear of their well-being when mom and dad are not with them, and they have an anxiety that they deal with being away from their parents. Staff well-being, we've talked about this quite a bit. I know in other board meetings, and I know we talked about this quite a bit in a lot of the other committees that we have in the district. But there's been a lot that's put on the teachers with them having to pivot and change and adapting to new curriculum and working to maintain the contact with their students as they go from on-site to remote to hybrid and things like that. As some of those orders are lifted now and the teachers have come back this semester, you're seeing that a lot of teachers are coming back concerned about their own health, concerned about the health of their kiddos. A lot of our teachers really worry about the quality of education that their kids are getting when we have to remote and services and things like that. And then teachers deal with a lot of the other things that we see in the news, loss of child care, financial difficulty, illnesses and things like that as well. Another thing that was discussed is internet safety. Obviously, especially our remote kiddos are spending a lot more time on devices, and a lot of our kiddos are online influences. There's a lot of things that can be done, parental controls can be put in place, and we as a district have monitoring tools in place too, but some of our kids are pretty techy and they find ways to work around some of those controls. And so, it's important for the school district and the staff to be increased, with the use of that technology. And then, this one I thought was interesting. There's a lot of information, I think, that we see in the news all the time about COVID-19, and there's always something new that we seem to find out, and that creates a lot of concern and a lot of confusion for our kids. And the document that we had talked a lot about recognizing that that's kind of how the scientific process works for kids, and explaining that to them, and the more we spend and the more knowledge that we share with our kids about COVID-19 and the facts that we have behind that, the less anxiety that they're going to have related to COVID-19. So using that as more of a teaching moment. Extracurricular activities, I know Mr. Tone has talked quite a bit about that before, but as school starts to reopen and there's opportunities for that, I know that there's a lot of folks that are concerned about safety as the kids are participating in those activities from a health perspective, but there's a lot of social and emotional benefits that are available too, and that participation benefits the kids in a lot of ways, like increasing the opportunity to interact with their peers and building those relationships with their coaches, and then the opportunity cost in extracurricular activities. So the more time that they're at football practice, the less time they have to find to get in trouble doing other things that they could find to fill their time. Suicide prevention is another one that they talked about a lot. Some of those factors include depression, anxiety, drug abuse, having a good relationship with a therapist, and making sure that the kiddos that have these thoughts and tendencies have a therapist is really important, and making sure that our kiddos have access to that is important as well. And the last one was, that the doctor talked about, was developing resilience. Just developing that can-do attitude in our kids, and encouraging them to work through adversities that they have, was really, really important, and identifying how to serve our kiddos and work through some of those things. So as we went through that document, we kind of looked at that and talked about those different categories, and then we talked about what we're doing right now as a district and as a community to support our kiddos. So some of the things that we're doing, our elementary counselors have started doing counseling for our remote students, and so they just have basically scheduled times where the kiddos can just drop in if they need to have somebody to talk to, or they want to connect because they are more isolated. And then as they're having those conversations, if there are specific things that pop up, then the counselors are scheduling independent times for them to meet along with the counselor to work through some of those issues. Level Up Benton County shared with the committee that Compass has received a grant that basically provides free counseling to adults and children for anything COVID related. And so they sent that flyer to me right after we had the meeting, and I shared that with all of our principals so that we can identify not only our kiddos that may need support, but some of our other family members, parents, and older siblings, things like that might need support too. And we kind of talked about looking at those 8 areas that the council talked about, what do we want to focus on? We talked about that quite a bit, and so the 2 areas that we decided we wanted to focus on were developing resilience and internet safety. Developing resilience is something that we just felt we can work on as a group, and that's going to benefit all of our kids in multiple areas, and not just as we deal with the dynamics of COVID-19. And then internet safety, obviously, as we are using the internet more, and a lot of our instruction is going to be delivered online, just making sure that we're doing the things and presenting those things together for our kiddos to keep them safe. The police department did share at that meeting that they are seeing a lot of kids sharing inappropriate pictures, and a lot of the times when they share those inappropriate pictures, they aren't aware of the legal consequences that go behind some of those things. And one of our elementary counselors shared at that meeting that iPads in their bedrooms, and then they stay up all night playing games and chatting maybe with people they shouldn't be, and the parents just aren't aware of that. And so, developing resilience and internet safety are kind of the two areas that we're going to kind of move forward and focus on as we do our work for the rest of the year on our committee. And that is my presentation in a nutshell too. Be happy to take any questions as well about.
This is Mark. If I wanted to take advantage of that Compass grant for free counseling, how would I do that?
I'm not super familiar with it, Mark. The flyer does have a phone number where you contact, and I think that Compass kind of takes care of that for them.
So
I would be happy to.
Yeah, I would get a copy of the flyer, is that right?
Yeah, would you like me to send the board a copy? I can sure do that for y'all.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Josh, do you by chance know if you have to go through a school administrator to access it, or no, you don't? No, okay.
No, I don't believe so. My understanding when we met the other night was that, this is a grant that, when it was shared with me, it came from another agency. It came from Livermore County. So I think Compass is trying to share that with as many agencies as possible. So I don't think it has to go through, the school administrator. That's just who I shared it with, because I figured they would be the ones, with regards to the kiddos in the buildings, that would identify the need for it.
So is that something that could go through the mass mailing, like the counselor's corner at the high school?
Probably could, yeah. I could send it to the counselors too. I never even thought of that. The counselors would probably. I'll do that too.
Well, it says people, so staff are eligible as well.
Yeah, pretty much anybody would be eligible, Mark. Okay. Is my understanding.
Thank you.
Well, maybe I missed this too, but I guess where are we, or what are we doing with the focus on staff well-being? Or is that another committee?
From my perspective, yeah, I don't know that we've discussed that in my committee in great length. I don't know if it's Linda or Dr. Carlin or Mr. Logan. I know that we've been doing things, but I don't know specifics.
I might jump in just a little bit. So we talked with our select vision group here a week or so ago about some of these items, and talked a little bit about kind of big picture ideas, questions that they might have for staff. How do we get feedback? What's an appropriate timeline to get feedback in terms of, we're not going to do it daily, but doing it, weekly, every couple weeks, monthly, quarterly even. So we're in the process of bringing that information together that we got from our select vision group, and just kind of taking action on it for multiple stakeholders, staff, students, families.
Okay. Does the insurance that we provide our staff include mental health services in any way?
We do have a new directions program, an employee assistance program that we offer, and they have some counseling, a lot of different supports, but there are some counseling avenues that our staff can participate in as well.
And Danny is our standard health insurance.
What I liked about the comment of that program being there is just the needs of the community, and particularly the parents, as being inclusive, not only the staff, but the parents. Because the parents have clearly got a bigger role in their students' education in many, many cases. So it was nice to talk to somebody. We sort of develop our own networks as individuals in the community, but the compass under that grant sounds to me like is a wonderful, resource, for sounding boards that many times parents need, particularly single parents that are faced with these, and the word he uses, these pivots in their life and in their students' education. So it's just, we need to be sure and distribute that as widely as we can.
Did we move forward with the curriculum that we had approved, I think at the end of last year?
Yes, ma'am. We have, second step, a K4 and then K6 buildings as well. And then, the CCC framework is, in the 512 building. And we had, at some of the back to school and services, we began training on those curriculums. And then we had some follow-up, I know, at least for the CCC framework, there was follow-up in September, in service as well.
And then will we do any kind of evaluation on those at the end of the year or mid-year, or is there something set up for that type of, thing, like, just to make sure, like, we're on the right track?
For the curriculum itself,
Yeah.
Belinda, I'm gonna field you on that one.
There isn't a specific tool that evaluates the curriculum. However, we have several tools that do evaluate how our students are doing, and we will look to those for, some basic guidance. We use the screening tools, and then we have the, community to care as well.
Thank you.
Jennifer Allen. Thank you, Mr. Diamond.
Thank you.
Now on to new business for the HVAC study. KJ and John.
So I think, we just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of background on the HVAC study, the proposal that we provided to you, and kind of why we think that's important and why we want to do it, at this point in time. So if we look at our, long-range facilities plan and look out over the next 5-10 years, we probably have anywhere from $8 to $10 million worth of, HVAC projects, over that timeline. And we have been made aware of some funding opportunities that could possibly help us, with those projects. With the pandemic and money that has become available through CARES and other, grant source funding, there are opportunities to possibly go after funds that would target programs to help us, increase the efficiency, increase the air quality of our systems, and those types of things. One of the things that's important, though, is that in order to be able to apply for these grants, we have to first be able to establish that, not that our systems are terrible, but that there is room for improvement. And in order to do that, we basically need I'll call it a baseline study to kind of say, here's where we're at, here's the recommendations that the experts would give us, and then with those recommendations, we can use that information to go and apply for these grants. Many of these grants have already gone through a round one, kind of like the stimulus checks that people received. There was a round one. Much of that money was quickly gobbled up because those people had to be pretty much ready to go and have the information they needed in order to apply. It's expected that there is going to be a round two of funding. There's still some funding available, but they are expecting another round two coming through with additional CARES dollars that are being allocated. So we want to be ready and make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row to be able to go and apply for these funds. Because in all actuality, it's on our radar, we're planning on paying for it, but if somebody wants to help us pay for it, why we just let them do it. So basically what that is the study, the proposal that we provided to you would be an indoor air quality assessment, which looks at our current systems again, documenting how they operate, providing recommendations, how these, would maybe need to be upgraded in accordance with industry guidelines, and then there's the CDC COVID-19 response guidelines. And those are some of the things that are being targeted in these funds. If you're doing those types of upgrades, then these types of funds can be available. So the proposal that we gave you, was, I believe, about $58,300 if you took off a couple buildings, because we don't have anybody at New Outlook anymore, and we sure as heck don't have anybody at Friends. So, those buildings wouldn't need to be on there, so it's about $58,300. Technically, it's a service item, we don't need to bid it, but this is done through a state contract, so that gives me a little bit more comfort, that the, project is priced, accordingly. We've done work with Train before, and they've helped us through some of these projects. If we decided to move forward with this project, one of the things that I would do is I would apply for reimbursement through the local Spark funding. We've been told that projects similar to this, these initial air quality studies have qualified for and have been funded through local Spark grants in other parts of the state. So not guaranteed that we would get it, but again, it's another opportunity where maybe we could get some assistance in paying for this. So to throw it out there that it was something that I hope we would get reimbursed, but even if we don't, we do have the funding to be able to move forward with it. That's my nutshell version of it. John, do you have anything to add? What have I missed?
No, you nailed it there. They'll look at the condition of the equipment that we have and the functionality of it, and go from there. So it's a really good tool for us to use moving forward. And like KJ said, we are going to be replacing this equipment anyway. So if we can do it with some funding that they're offering, it's good for us.
Is there any questions about the proposal or what we're trying to kind of move forward and do here?
Yeah, question.
Alex?
So, does the Spark money, will it only pay for the systems that have anything, just have stuff to do with the COVID-19, as far as air quality control, the UV filters, and equipment, or is it just, a broad range? If we get $100,000 for one building, does it pay up to $100,000 in equipment with those stipulations on that equipment? And then the other thing would be, is there a timeline that once this money has been approved, that we have to perform this work? And does that make us, speed up our capital outlay programs that pay for this and get our ducks in a row, like you're saying?
I can tackle the second question. John might need to tackle the first one, but there are a couple different sources that we can go to for some of these grants, depending on the type of project recommendations that come out of the initial study. And yes, some of them do have deadlines of when you have to have the work completed by. So that could potentially speed up a timeline that maybe something wasn't scheduled for, 2 years out, but we didn't do it within the next year, we can get a portion of it paid for. So that would be a decision we have to make at that point in time. Is it worth it to us to do that? Front money we probably weren't ready to spend, or those types of things in order to get some additional dollars paid for.
Okay, and then hopefully Josh can answer the first question, but John, I want to dovetail on some of the buildings that we've already done some work in or done some updating on or complete replacement. With this type of funding and looking at the air quality control and the study comes back that we can actually do something in that building, but there's already been work done, does that affect any pre-existing warranties that we have on that equipment, or that will just add to it?
It wouldn't affect any of the warranties that we currently have.
Because we're touching something else with equipment that is not necessarily the Train brand.
Right. That last bunch of equipment we went with was Aeon, and it would not it would not affect that anyway, although, there is a possibility of pulling back, and asking for, some help with those, because, like, your, Gertrude Walker was one of the worst indoor vulnerabilities we had at the time, so, that's not set in stone, but there's been some discussion that they could, fall back on some of that too, to regain some of that cost from that. I know if we do anything right now, like the summer projects we're gonna do right now, if they were not added into this, funding request, we could go back and recoup those funds when it does come available.
So do we have, AJ, do we have any idea what the dollar amount would be from Spark to help offset that capital outlay expenditure?
I don't think we know yet. Like I said, we're kind of waiting for the majority of the money's gonna be in this round 2 that they're expecting. So that's one of the reasons why we want to get ahead of the game, have our ducks in a row, our proposals, our recommendations, so that when that second round comes out, we can then decide what grants might be best for us depending on what pieces of the puzzle. I don't remember, John, did they give us any guidance as to, I mean, were projects being completely funded, 50% funded? I don't remember.
Yeah, and that goes back to your first question there on, if the recommendation may be just to, or deal with UV guidance or OSA or, different methods to try to improve it, but our equipment is so old and outdated that they're not gonna make those recommendations on most of our equipment, maybe the high school, adding to the high school's equipment. But the rest of our buildings that we're replacing the equipment is just too old, and those recommendations would not, adhere to us on that. So it'd be, then purchasing new equipment.
That's all I have, Brandon.
Mark?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have fun with John in his phraseology there about the outdated equipment at the high school. I know that's not what he was saying. I know that's not what you were saying, I was just having fun, sorry, John. I understood what you were saying, and I applaud you and KJ and the district for this work, because to me, it's just following up on the work that you've been doing as a result of the long-range facilities planning that sort of has been delayed a bit as far as committee meetings, but you all remain on top of, and that we identified here a few years ago in needs of the facilities. And particularly what I was going to bring up that you brought up, John, was Gertrude Walker as an example. So good job on working on this, and it's a little encouraging that there might be several sources of funding if we could get the base information to apply for those grants, as well as what I've heard you say, John, that might even be if there's a problem identified as a result of this work with some prior work, we might get some support to make it right, so to speak. Is what I thought I heard you say. Or at least fill in the gaps where we didn't quite go far enough in obtaining those quality work environments for our staff and children.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know how far back we can go, but I do know that if we had done something like right now moving forward, I know it would go back and we'd be able to include those. So I don't know if that Gertrude Walker being 2 years ago, but maybe some of the work we just did this last summer could be.
Thank you.
Dr. Henderson?
John, can you talk to me about any knowledge that you've gained regarding some immediate changes that can be made to both the filtration system and the turnover rate in our pre-existing, in our existing systems? I'm starting to read about public facilities making adjustments to both the type and the frequency of their filtration, and also adjusting the turnover rate of the air in an effort to mitigate the threat.
Yeah, we checked into that with the high school. For instance, the band room was concerned about the air changes in there, and the way we have the system set up now is in compliance with their recommendations, so we didn't have to actually make any changes on that. We've done pretty much what we can do in-house, with the equipment that we have. We're running everything 24/7 just to keep the air circulating, all night long. So we just don't have any stagnant air. The filtration that we're using right now, we cannot go to any, stricter, filtration for our equipment. It would just overwork our equipment so hard that, it wouldn't be effective at all. And then the occupants would notice the, changes in the building, comfort. So yeah, that's about it on that. We are doing what we can as a district in-house.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Is this an action item?
It is, that way that we can, go ahead and get this moving. And I think the hope is that hopefully this can be paid for at some point by some funding, right? But at this point, this would come out of capital outlay money, but, because no guarantee that we can get it paid back.
We're kind of towards the top of the vendors list to do this project if the board approves this. So they would start pretty quickly, I believe, John, that's kind of what they represented to us.
Yeah, and we have to do it while the buildings are occupied, just because that presents the load that we're working with. And they'll put the equipment, the sensors that they'll put into the building will not disrupt any class time or anything. We'll go in and set those devices, and then it'll record, temperature, humidity, CO2 levels. And, so it'll just be a little tiny unit inside the classroom. And they'll put that, they won't do that in every classroom, there's just places sporadically throughout the building, just so they can get an overall average of the areas.
And I think the other thing worth noting is, part of the service too is the vendor will help us identify what grant dollars are available out there, and will even help us with some of the applications. So like Laura mentioned, there's a pretty good likelihood, and KJ mentioned that maybe Spark Plenty would help pay for this initial assessment. But even if that doesn't happen, basically if we find one project and get one project funded, then we would more than recover our cost here. So, and I think the other thing is, while we want the help financially, certainly that would be good, but the other thing is the timing of this. If we're able to secure grant funds, we may be able to move faster on some of these projects than what we would be able to do if we don't find outside funding. So, so lots of potential advantages for us in this.
So do you?
When's the last time we had a air quality test?
4 years ago, when we did the little project, the energy audit, we're trained, and that was prior to me coming here.
Did we do that for every school, or just the schools that we've tested so far?
It was done on every school, and now the technology to do this has gotten much better in that 5-year period. So I think it's really beneficial for our district to have this information.
And I think you hit on a strong point, with some of the things happening in hospital space as well, is putting in stricter filters, but the problem is it's suffocating the system because the filters are so dense to catch all that product, if you will. So they are putting in UV lights to help kill that any bacteria and virus coming through there and getting away from these filters. Because not only are the filters are expensive, but you also have the man hours, the labor, and the time and effort to go up there and change those filters on probably a 30-day basis. If they last that long.
Yes.
So UV is probably more expensive, but we'll probably do that as a train. But I think this is a great idea, especially with the new COVID-19 stuff out there, and to see where our buildings are sitting currently with the load that we have in there.
Dana?
So I don't see that this would be similar to like that roof study where it helped us
result as well, like, no matter what grant we might get or not, it still helps prioritize the projects?
Yeah, and we pretty much have the priorities, set in line right now. We know which buildings have the worst capability quality. We know which buildings have the oldest equipment. We know which buildings we're having issues with. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. It is all going to be done, in our plan.
So we kind of already have that information, we just want to help getting it done.
Well, we need to update it so it's
No.
good enough to qualify for these programs, is basically what it comes down to.
So we need the data, we know, but we need the data to prove it for the grants. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, so to apply for the, potential funds, we need this data, recorded by somebody else, a third party, to act on our behalf.
John, I have a question for
But
you.
you're absolutely right. I mean, we do have the study from 4 or 5 years ago that we kind of outlined, our path that we were going to take. But as John mentioned, the technology is so much better now that we may find that something we had in spot 3 and 4 may now need to reverse to 5, 4, 3 or something, for whatever reason. So it will take what we already had and make it better, and then add to it the improvements that we've already done since then and kind of gauge where those are at in the process and make sure those are where we want those to be as well.
John, do we have your decks clean in the buildings on a regular basis? How often does that happen?
No, and never. I won't say never, because in the, Horace Good project last year, we had ducts, cleaned in that, system, in the auditorium. But no, that's not, normally done. I will look at that, moving forward with the 5 buildings, Fifth and Stones, and Edith Sherman, and Forrest Wilson, and VO. We will look at that, for those units, because I've had some other issues over there, but, when you replace the rooftop units, you're pretty much replacing from what's on the roof to what's in the classroom, so, there's no work done there, but in these bigger and older systems that we have, I think it would be very important, especially out here in this part of the country, because those ducts do get dirty.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I make a motion that we, approve the proposal for funding to, have the air study done?
Motion to approve the air study funding, second by Mark. Any other discussion? Okay. Stephanie?
Laura?
Aye.
Dr. Hannigan?
Aye.
Dana? Aye. Janine? Aye. Mark?
Aye.
Jennifer? Alex?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Madam President, can I just add one thing? Just a big thank you to KJ and John, who have really worked on this. They've put a lot of effort into this already to kind of get us in a position to take this step. And a number of different meetings that they participated in, and I think Stuart Nelson with Gibson, Mancini, Carmichael, and Nelson has also been helpful for us in this process. And so this is hopefully the start of something that will pay some big dividends for us. But John and KJ, thanks for all your work on it.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
I think that takes us to board open discussion. I'm gonna start with Jennifer. Do you have anything, Jennifer? Alex?
I'm good, thank you.
Mark?
Well, good. I do want to mention, right entity in the school district about, I got some feedback about curriculum, words that the first graders are required to learn. And it really was centered around the negative versus positive, maybe unintentional messaging in their vocabulary list. So, I'd like to touch base on that. It's totally, it's a consideration of curriculum, but certainly very, very minor in light of tonight's discussion and the current focus on the district. Sometime I'd like to have a few moments of learning on that.
Raymond? I would just like to continue to put thanks out there to the teachers and administrators and Dr. Carlin and your staff, just the continued efforts to keep our staff and students safe, to keep our students in school, and to provide as normal as possible, a school year. So I just, I imagine that it sometimes can be very frustrating and defeating at times when there's a lot of negativity, no matter what you do. So I just really appreciate the efforts. I'm glad my kids are in school. So just thanks.
Dr. Hanahan?
Yeah, I would like to just thank the people who made the effort to both write into the school and come to the meeting tonight and to comment. I absolutely feel the frustration personally that we're not able to educate our kids in the way that we want to, given the seriousness of the disease. And I want to highlight a couple of words at the end of that letter. The letter was written by a surgeon in town and a physician in town, both of whom are not only highly trained, but if you ever found yourself in an emergency situation, I'm sure most, if not all of us in this room, would immediately put our health in the hands of both of these providers. And we would trust that they had our best interests at heart. We would trust that they would use the science and the knowledge that they spent all the years gaining to make the best decision that they could for our own individual health. They mentioned at the end of that letter a comment about the health effects of masks, and I also have run into this in terms of this perception that masks are somehow detrimental to our health. And the words they used were peer-reviewed science. And it is true that you can find pretty much any study that you want to find, especially with the ubiquity of the internet these days. The key, though, is to determine sound science from junk science. And the term peer-reviewed it implies that scientific study has been combed and repeated in a fashion that can give you some confidence that it is valid. And I find it interesting that we worry about the health detriments as a public of wearing masks, when in fact the health professionals have worn masks and continue to wear masks. And I've been wearing a mask my whole career. And I can confidently say that if I had any kind of indication that a mask was anything more than a benefit to me, I would be the first to speak out about it. But peer-reviewed, sound scientific, good science, again, shows us that these masks are not detrimental. They are, in fact, one of the best defenses we have against an enormous challenge.
I really can't follow that. It's said much more eloquently things that I feel about masks as well. I do appreciate everybody that's reached out this past several months with giving feedback and input and letting us know how you feel about things, because we're here for you and we want to make sure that I always want to make sure that when I'm voting that I'm taking all points of view into consideration when I'm, voting in a manner which I do. Those things are really important, and, I know that sometimes it's hard for some people to reach out, but it is very much appreciated. The other thing is that as teachers and administrators and people that are working in the classrooms, thank you so much for what you do. I know that there are so many different things that are added this year that you have to deal with, and I know at the end of the day, many times, your voice is tired because you're having to project more, you have to deal with the masks, not only do you have to deal with the masks yourself, you have to make sure your kids are wearing it. And I know that it can be exhausting. And so I know it can be exhausting from my point of view, but I cannot even imagine what it's like to be in a classroom and deal with that during the day. Thank you very much for what you do and looking at and keeping our kids as safe as possible. That's all I got.
I've heard a lot of things that have been said about the school board not caring about our teachers and not caring about our students and making wrong policy lately. I disagree. I think we try really hard to do what's right. I know you may disagree with us, but we're trying. And I know that may fall on deaf ears, because I've also heard trying's not good enough. I'm not getting my information from just one source, as I've been accused of. I feel like I've been trying to do a lot of research and talking to a lot of different people. And I've been trying to get my information from a lot of different valid resources and from a lot of different grade levels. And we are trying to do what's right. So we're trying to keep kids safe, we're trying to keep teachers safe, and we're trying to keep schools open for in-person learning. That's what we're trying to do. And I think that's what all 7 of us are trying to do. We may disagree as to how to do that, but that's what all of us are trying to do. And that's, at the end of the day, when we walk out of here, that's what we're all trying to do. So, keep the information coming to us, keep your opinions coming to us, because that's how we're able to make our decisions. But please know that we do care and that we are listening and we're trying to do what we think is best for everyone. And there's lots of things that we're trying to weigh and balance. And you may be seeing a small part of something, but we're trying to weigh a bigger picture, not just one piece of it, but the whole thing. So please bear with us, and if you have questions, let us know. We may direct you to Dr. Carlin or someone else so you can get more information, but we are trying. So, but thank you for all the information you're giving us and your opinions, because they do matter. So, Dr. Carlin?
Really not a whole lot, just again, a thank you to everybody who's provided 6 weeks of face-to-face instruction for our kids. There's a lot of places in Kansas that are nowhere near that. Some that are still trying to get the first days of fully face-to-face for their students. And that hasn't happened without a lot of really hard work and dedication by a lot of staff members to get us there. the most challenging issue that I have dealt with in my 33-year career in education. It's an issue where there are strong opinions on all sides of this, and I think Laura said it best that, you know, our goal here is to keep everybody safe as much as is reasonably possible, and also provide as much of a quality face-to-face environment, you know, keep our schools open environment for our kids. We are going to have differences of opinion. People are going to have different feelings. But the ability to understand where others are coming from, to make sacrifices, and those are the kind of things that it's going to take for us to get through this. We will have much better success if we try to do this together than if we pick sides and argue about every little issue. I can't tell you how proud I am of our people and how they've stepped up. Also tonight, really want to single out these three that are on Zoom, KJ, Glenn, and Heath, who are providing amazing leadership. And while I was dealing with COVID personally and still continue to deal with it a little bit, but am cleared to come back to work as of last Monday, right? Got to do quite a bit of work from home. Their leadership in this district has been amazing, and I just want to really extend a huge thank you and recognition of them. So that's all I have. Thanks for the board's support on all this, and I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish so far. We've got some issues to deal with, and we've got a ways to go yet, but our community should be proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
I think, I don't know if I can, I think I can speak for all of us that, on the board, that I'm truly humbled and grateful for all that the staff and the administration and the teachers have done. I mean, I don't think any of us can truly know what all of you have been doing for our kids. So thank you all for everything. Okay, anything else, anyone, for the good of the cause?
I'm dying to give a quote.
Go for it.
Abraham Lincoln was attributed to saying, there are few things wholly evil or wholly good. Almost everything, especially of policy, government policy, is an inseparable compound of the two, so that our best judgment of the preponderance between them is continually demanded. And I think, in the words that have been expressed here in the work of the district, that is certainly true in trying to figure this whole thing out. And so it just, there's a lot of thought that goes into it, a lot of weighing of the options. So it seemed to be appropriate given your comments.
The next meeting of the Board of Education will take place on Monday, October 26th, 2020 at 6 p.m. here in the board meeting room at the Educational Support Center. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Moved by Alex, second by Janine. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you all. Have a good night.